Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? As we always say, it's your hostess with the mostest, PKR, Pastor Keenan Riley, back with another episode of People Suck, Love 'Em Anyways, episode 567,214, star date.
Where are we going with that?
Man,
I'm just going to keep going.
I know. I feel like it's episode 560,000, but it's only like, what, 114 now, 115?
Yeah, I think 115.
115 is what we're up to, man. So, you know, I mean, it feels like a lot, but I guess once you look at it, we've been doing this, what, 2 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
Something pretty close. Dynamite drop in. I was waiting for you to kind of take it a step further, and he's like, "Yeah, something like that."
It's been 4 years.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But yeah, man. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for hitting the download button. Thank you for just always following along, man, listening and all that good jazz. And we appreciate it so much. And as always, on my right-hand side, maybe your left, but my right. Hopefully you got a left and a right. If you don't, we're praying for you. Nonetheless.
If you can't see, it doesn't really matter. It's
this is true. This is true.
Listening,
So if you can't see, how are you hitting the download button?
Well, I don't know. Talk to speak or speech to text or whatever you call that.
Yeah, my stuff gets so messed up when I try to do that, man.
Accessibility settings.
It's so bad.
I hate when like something automatically defaults to it. Like I'll be starting like a video game or something, and it just starts reading the text on the screen to me, and some weird robot voice like stop.
See, I'm thinking like phones whenever I voice text people, and my phone, man, gets so jacked, and it's because of my accent. I know. I'm from deep south in Kentucky, I feel like, and in the United States of America for all my people over in India who continue to bang out the episodes, man. We appreciate it. But yeah, so my accent is like really southern drawn bad, and so I'll go to voice text somebody, and I am talking like this whenever I go to voice text, and still me talking that slow and trying to pronounce everything out, and it's just like, it's totally out in left field, and I'm like, man, forget this. This is why people have Rex for. It's not because they're texting and driving. They're voice texting, and it's so bad. Then they go to text.
Yeah, it's like the second choice.
And then at that point, man, everybody just has Rex. It's part of it. So anyways, now that we veered,
tangent.
now that we have veered off course a little bit, as always, on my right-hand side, back to that. My right-hand side, man, is always Nicky Nick. And man, how you doing? It's Sunday afternoon. It's Memorial Day weekend. How you feeling? How you living?
I mean, it's been a pretty good little weekend, to be honest with you. I've been able to kind of, I guess, relax a little bit more than I wanted to, or I won't say that I wanted to, but than I expected. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I feel like every day you should want to relax, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my wife and the littlest one didn't get home till very late, so after I put my daughter to bed, I had a little extra time to kind of relax.
What were they
and play
doing?
Games. I don't know, avoiding me, I guess. Yeah. But it's fine.
There you go.
But no, yeah, and it's been pretty nice. Hopefully we'll be able to go out and do something fun tomorrow as well, and all that. But it's been pretty crazy weather-wise here. I think this is like the wettest May Kentucky's had on record here, and
it's insane.
It's driving me nuts. We've been trying to get our house finished and all that kind of stuff, and it keeps getting pushed further and further behind because of all this rain and all that craziness. But other than that, it's not been too bad. Not too bad.
The rain has been insane.
Yeah.
So if you are in a drought somewhere else where you're listening to this, please pray for the rain.
You can have it.
Yes, please pray for the rain to transition from central Kentucky over to where you are, and we would be happy to give it to you. So yeah, it's been kind of crazy, man, as far as that goes. It's actually raining outside right now while we're doing this, but it's kind of dampened some plans and kind of moved some stuff around for us. But again, very thankful for the opportunity to do this. Very thankful today in this weekend that represents Memorial Day. This is for the families and yeah, right, yeah, absolutely. This is for the families that had troops, loved ones that didn't make it back. This is what this weekend is all about. And I actually took a screenshot of something, man, that I thought was really powerful that I was going to read during service today. But if people know anything about me whatsoever, they know that I am not that person that's going to stick to plan or script, and I forget a lot. So, but anyways, I seen this the other day, man, and it really spoke a lot to me. Let me read this really quick. It says, Monday will be the most expensive holiday on the calendar. Every hot dog, every burger, every spin around the lake or drink with friends and family is a debt purchased by others. This is not about all who've served. That day comes in the fall. This one is in honor of those who paid in life and blood, whose moms never saw them again, whose dads wept in private, whose wives raised kids alone, and whose kids only remembered them from pictures. This isn't simply a day off. This is a day to remember that others paid for every free breath you ever get to take. And man, I tell you what, whenever I read that, like it spoke to me, man, and it gave me a little bit of bumps.
I'm standing up over there.
It gave me a little bit of bumps, man, just reading it. Because I mean, it's the culture that we have today in society and in America. Again, I know we have listeners abroad, but the culture we have today, man, it's just like we have become so desensitized to a lot of different things. And this, I feel like, this holiday, or if you want to call it a holiday, that we get into a lot, man, that we forget, the meaning and the sacrifice and what went down behind, even though we might have never experienced the loss of a loved one in war, or we might never have experienced war itself, things like that, man. I feel like we forget that there was a sacrifice that was made by so many people and continues to be made today. And I know, again, we got a lot of listeners abroad. I know that, there's a lot going on in the world right now that is war related. So, other people might be able to relate to this so well. That, it's almost like we see it on TV, we hear about it, and we read about it, whatever. But it's like, I'll be honest with you, I'm fortunate, and maybe you are too, that I've not had that happen to me. I've not had that knock on my door. We do know people, we are friends with people that have had that happen to them, man. And, today, tomorrow, is not that time to celebrate and go out crazy on the lake. It's a time of remembrance. It's a time to be able to say, hey, look, like, I had family, I had friends, I had a wife, I had a husband, I had kids, I had whatever that gave it all to serve a country, to keep that country free. And so, whenever I read that, man, I was like, man, that speaks volumes. Because I do feel like, even though, and I don't know, we might lose listeners over this, I don't know, but I feel like we do still live in the greatest nation that there is.
Debatable.
Out there. I do feel like that as far as our jobs of just remembering and really bringing to the forefront the sacrifice, whether it be the American soldier, hey, I want to get spiritual on you for a second, or even Jesus, we forget, Nick, that was paid 2,000 years ago up on a cross. And, we preach about it, and we talk about the cross, we talk about Calvary, we talk about the sacrifice, we talk about everything that Jesus done. And it's like we talk about it like, like it was a fictional story that we picked up at the library, versus, this is something that he done so we could get better, so we could live better, so we could be better type situation. And, in the same way with those soldiers, same way, it's so that we can get better, we can live better, we can be better, we can operate in that freedom. And, they go hand in hand with each other, man. And it's just, I don't know, man. I think, in that regards, we just have to do a better job, I feel like, of not being as desensitized to that, Yeah,
it's definitely something that I think everybody can, to an extent, relate to. I won't say I would argue, but I would say that a lot of people listening to this, or, a lot of people in the world in general, have somebody in their friend group or their family that has served at some point in their lives. I mean, of course, here in America, we had drafts and things of that nature, where, people were required to serve. And I know we have an international audience as well, and in some occasions, I know we have listeners in Russia every once in a while, and if you really want to take a step back and think about, we here in America, again, we become so desensitized to it. There are people that I'm going to be 100% honest. Hopefully I don't get assassinated. But, I know that there's
probably... I'm pretty sure you got to be important to be assassinated.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But I may get important with this, you never know. But, I know that there's probably people, there are people in other countries, like right now, you got, Russia and Ukraine fighting, Iran, Jerusalem, Israel, all that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and it's kind of like I always I think I heard it said one time before, where it's like, we have people who have never met each other fighting for people who hate each other or something like that. You know, it's like they have no dog in the fight, but they're doing what they feel they're supposed to do. And all that to say, just, you know, I know that there has to be soldiers in countries, you know, because we talk about, you know, here in America, you've got, you know, we're fighting for freedom. That's what we always say. You know, we're fighting for freedom. We're fighting for the good fight. We're the good guys in every situation, always. You know, and, you know, I just kind of want to challenge the notion to say that sometimes it's not always the case. You know, you may be in a country right now where you're being forced to fight, or you're fighting a battle you don't necessarily agree with, or you have family members who died for a cause that you didn't agree with or didn't believe in. You know, and I think all of that just to say, you know, is that regardless of anything, life is precious. You know, God gave us life. God gave us the ability to breathe. No matter what country you're in, you know, where you're from, you know, we joke about it, you know, and in America, you know, we don't have as many struggles as other countries may. And we're very grateful, and we're not grateful enough for that, I don't think.
True statement.
You know, I mean, you know, back, you know, many 200 something, 300 something years ago, you know, the Civil War here in America broke out, and that was pretty rough for a lot of people. But we don't experience, I mean, like I said, it's been 200-300 years since something that crazy's happened.
Yeah.
You know, unless you want to throw in race and, you know, that kind of stuff that continued for many years afterwards. But, you know, like, there are countries out there, you know, like I said, you know, Ukraine, Russia, which we have people in both countries that listen to this every once in a while, you know, or, you know, Iran, or, you know, Israel, or, you know, wherever else in the world you may be. India. I know they have a lot of issues. And I know, I mean, historically they've had a lot of issues and wars and civil wars and things of that nature. And, you know, so just regardless of anything, you know, I think we just need to take a step back and remember that, you know, there are people who died for causes they believed in, died for causes they didn't believe in. They are children of God just as we are. You know, and you know, again, it's just important to respect the sacrifice that they made, to you know, show love and compassion to their families, to their friends. You know, we may not necessarily agree, you know, with somebody on the other side who lost a battle or lost a life, you know, but God called us to love all people, not just the people who fight for us and agree with us and look like us, you know. And so we're called to show that love for all people, regardless of what, you know, mantra they lived by, regardless of what ideology they fought for. You know, just remembering that, you know, we need to take a step back and remember that regardless of anything, there are people who paid the ultimate sacrifice, who gave their lives fighting to continue their way of life, in some way, shape, or form. And also remembering those who have been forced to fight fights that they didn't agree with, you know, and that's happened in America just as well as in other countries. You know, like I said, that draft, a lot of people were fighting wars in Vietnam they didn't agree with, but they just had to do it. You know, and it's pretty crazy to think about, but regardless of anything, just kind of bringing it back in before we go too far on that end. But, you know, just we're thankful, I think is what we're trying to say. We're thankful for the sacrifice that all these people have made, you know, and we hope that, you know, these people are experiencing a better life, you know, if they believed in Jesus, you know, that, you know, they had to go fight a war, you know, and it was horrible, I'm sure, you know, it was scary, you know, horrific. They saw horrific things, traumatizing. You know, and there are people still suffering from that, you know, whether it's, you know, PTSD or anything like that, watching their friends, family members die right beside them, you know, horrific things. And we just want to say, you know, that, you know, we love you. We're thankful for everything that you do. And, you know, we really hope and pray that you have some peace over this weekend, as we are in America, doing Memorial Day, where we're remembering those we've lost. We're thankful for their sacrifices, and, you know, we know that they had a life just like we had a life. They chose, some of them chose, some of them didn't, to do with, you know, their life what they did. And we're thankful that, you know, there are people out there willing to make the sacrifice for other people. Again, you know, there's soldiers out there dying every day for people they'll never meet, for causes, you know, again, maybe they do or don't believe in, but, you know, we have a way of life here in America that we take for granted a lot of times because of so many people who have gone overseas and fought for us, you know. And I may not be the biggest proponent of America sometimes, but I will say that I'm thankful for everybody who puts that uniform on for the right reasons, to help us out and to fight to make our day, you know, our lives as easy as they can be over here. So we're grateful to every family member out there, because, you know, Memorial Day, we understand that you guys have lost, you guys have been grieving for many years, sometimes maybe fresh for some people, but you know, we love you, and if you ever need anything, reach out. We'll help out as much as we can, pray for you and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's just you know, again, going back to that whole, like, you know, desensitized situation. You know, whether it's war abroad or whether it's, you know, to reel it back in and go with Jesus for a second. I mean, it's like you think about the ultimate sacrifice of just, you know, of coming to, like you said, to die for people, so they will have the opportunity to say thank you or to accept what you're doing, type situation. And Jesus was the same way. Like, he came into this world, and he came into this world to die for everyone, but not everyone would accept him. And, and that's just something, man, I think about a lot, about, like, the weight that was probably on his shoulders, to go through and to navigate life the way he did for the 33 and a third years that he was here on this earth. And then, like, you try to put it into perspective, even like, you take it down to like the ministry of today, 2024, the ministry that we have, whether it's Fruition Church, whether it's the podcast, whether it's, just doing daily devotionals, whatever the case is, you put it down into that regards. And like, a part where I can really try to be and even up my ante as far as trying to be more like Jesus is in that regard of being able to understand that not everybody, like, that you're doing this for everybody, but not everybody's going to accept what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's something, man, that, like, whenever I first started being a Christian, back, like, I don't know, man, like 15, I think it was whenever I got saved, like 3 weeks before my 16th birthday. So I was still 15. So what, 24 years? It's a long time, man. That's longer than you've been alive, right? Close?
No, I mean, I've been alive a little longer.
A little longer. But like, like, I got to thinking about, whenever I first became a Christian, how I was, now even referenced it today during service, that, that I had the look, the look down, the look of a Christian, what I thought, was a really thick Bible and a really good suit, and of course attendance and, things like that. And I had that down. It's just the really bad part was my heart position. I was doing everything I was doing, not for God, but just for glory for myself. And, I lived for the hand claps and the pats on the back and the good jobs and the, things like that. And, if I didn't get a certain amount of them, man, I was just like, like, hey, these people suck, and here we have a podcast today, but, as you grow in Christianity and as you grow in your relationship with Jesus, you figure out that first off, you don't do this for self-glory or gratification. You do this to bring him glory, and honor and praise. And, not everybody that you meet, not everybody that you come in contact with, is going to be that person that's going to be like, man, let me hear more about what you've got to say, or let me come visit your church, or let me, I'm sure there's probably been people that's heard this podcast that said, hey, man, forget this. Like, whatever. I could, listen to Furtick, or I could listen to, Christine Kane or somebody, or Joyce Myers, or, whatever the case is. Let's name drop all the people. And that's fine. That's cool. That's all right. 1,000%. That's cool. But there are select people out there that, that have heard and been like, what, I like that. I'm going to keep listening to that. I'm going to keep growing with that. So, my thing is like, if I could get better with Christ in any way, it's the fact of to understand that, that we still got a job to do. As ministers, as leaders, as preachers, as teachers, as evangelists, as prophets, we still got a job to do, and that's to spread the gospel, and that's to understand, though, that, like, not everybody is going to take what you're doing and run with it. Some people are not going to like what you're doing. Some people are not going to like the way you participate with it. Some people are not going to like how you lay it down and how you present it. And I think that all comes with maturity. I think that all comes with, just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, things like that. And just kind of like, over the years, man, you just kind of figure out what works and go with it. But that's one area, man, as you were talking and got me thinking about just today in general, that I could truly get better and be more like Jesus in, was just that fact of that, hey, I came to present to all, even though all won't accept it. Mm-hmm. That's where I can get better.
Yeah, and I think that's something we all need to work on a little bit. We are very, regardless of if you want to admit that you are or not, we're very, very judgmental people. Mm-hmm. We only want to hang around the people who believe like us, look like us, talk like us. We don't like having conversations with people who believe the opposite, of myself or yourself or whoever. Just, here in America, we have a two-party system, and Democrat or Republican, and God forbid any, one person from each party, sitting next to each other.
Right.
It becomes a nightmare sometimes. sometimes, and it's just, it's crazy to think, because, I've seen and I've heard, some crazy things being said, I don't care, and I used to be that person, I guess is where I want to kind of start with this is, I used to be that person who would look at somebody on the other side and be like, I don't care what happens to them. I don't care if they ever, do anything good with their life. I don't, and it's just, there's just like, I know they're so wrong. They're so stupid. They're so this, they're so that, and I've been there before, I've been very hateful and judgmental to people who didn't look like me, talk like me, believe like me. And I'll be the first to admit that, that's
right.
something that I've grown a lot from. But it took college courses, it took meeting and having conversations with people, and it took Jesus putting me in those places and those situations and positions, in order to have those conversations and to learn and to see things in a different way. And that's one thing I will challenge anybody to do is to, not necessarily change their perspective, but to put themselves in situations that challenge their perspective.
Yeah, there you go.
I want to make sure that people, understand that this world we live in is not black or white. The gospel may be, you either believe in Jesus or you don't. But I think it's just important to know that, life isn't that way. There are people out there who may not believe like you, doesn't mean God doesn't love them. There may be people out there who don't vote like you do, doesn't mean Jesus doesn't love them. And I mean, because I will tell you this right here and right now, I have heard people out of their mouth say that if you're a Democrat, you can't possibly be a Christian.
Yeah.
I've heard that be said before. And, and it's just things like that, statements like that, are what has kind of, they almost gross me out anymore, I guess is the best way for me to put it.
Politics in general,
and it's
man, just gross me out anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, if you believe in this, you can't possibly be a Christian. But then
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you lied today, then how are you? It's just
Right.
like, you
It's all
throw
the
these
same.
things. We
Yeah.
all struggle with different things. We all come to different conclusions. We all, interpret things a little bit differently. And it's not my position to judge and say you are or are not a Christian. I mean,
Right.
you can say, just as I think I was reading this morning or yesterday, Jesus is the tree and we're the branches. Some will produce fruit, some will not. And God is the one who trims those and all that stuff. It's not our job to trim them. God, Jesus didn't say that, hey, we need to go along cutting branches off and all that kind of stuff. God is the one who sees the fruit and, grows it, or, all these sorts of things that we decide to take from God. You do this, you believe that, you look like that, you vote this way, you're not a Christian. We start cutting people off and writing people off, just based on little small things like that. What's your position on gun control? What's your position on abortion? What's your position on, the LGBTQIA plus community? What's your position on this? What's your position on that? And we get so divided, and we get so angry at each other and frustrated at each other, and we are doing, at that moment, we're doing the opposite of what God has called us to do.
Yeah.
We're being the opposite of who God has called us to be. We are supposed to, I really do believe as Christians, we're supposed to be able to sit down and have conversations and learn and teach people who don't look like us, don't believe like us, don't think like, or I'll put it this way, don't sin like us.
Yeah.
And so, we have to get a little bit better, I think, about putting ourselves in situations, putting ourselves around people, situations, whatever you want to say there, that challenge our way of thinking. And again, not necessarily challenge your belief in who Jesus is, but challenge your belief in, what the right politics. And I've said this too before. I've gotten to the point where I see so much division between both parties, and I understand that neither party is perfect, and neither party really conforms to the true Christian, system. That I don't vote anymore, and I've been that vocal proponent of that. I don't vote anymore. I don't support Republicans. I don't support Democrats. They are imperfect human beings who make mistakes and don't follow the ways of the Bible or anything like that. I follow a king, and that's Jesus.
Right.
I'm going to listen and trust that He has the best in store for me, and He's going to make things work out for me and the people around me. And so I've said that multiple times on this podcast, and to people in conversation. But again, it's just this division is what has led me to that point. Having conversations with people and understanding that it's not so black and white, that I can still love you even though you don't look like me, talk like me, and believe like me, or whatever else. There, like I said, in the conversation about Memorial Day, there are people over there in other countries fighting for countries that believe in things that I don't support. But God still loves them, so why shouldn't I still love them? But again, we get so polarized, and in America and as the world, I'm sure as a whole, we get so polarized that there are people here in America that wouldn't sit down and talk to a Russian person. There are people here in America that wouldn't talk to someone who lives in Israel or someone who lives in Iran or Hamas, because of what they believe, because of what they're fighting for. They wouldn't want anything to do with them. They wouldn't want to talk to them. But how are we supposed to reach the lost? How are we supposed to reach the hurting if we don't reach out to all people? If we don't put those, polarizing, decisions and things aside and just show them the love of Christ and love on them ourselves.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, even to play devil's advocate just for a second, I mean, I'm thinking about church, and I'm thinking about how, you're talking like, well, I'm not going to vote anymore because I don't agree with either side. And, as soon as you said that, it really took me back to a place of like, can you imagine being a person who wants to go to church, who wants to know more about Jesus, who wants to kind of get, connected somewhere. And it's like you look at all of these different places out there, just in America alone. I mean, you got Baptist, you got Southern Baptist, you got Church of God, you got Assemblies of God, you've got, your Pentecostal, you got your Methodist, you got your, just all of these different denominations.
Baptist, Southern Baptist, Contemporary Baptist.
You just got all of these different denominations coming at you. And like, I couldn't imagine being that person going, like, it's almost like going into an ice cream shop and you have 87 different flavors, and like you're going, wow, like why is there so like, who had time to think of cotton candy, Rocky Road, caramel cluttered marshmallow cherry, like, like what flavor did that come from? And you think to yourself, it's like, I think, that person is looking and going, why is there 92 different denominations that I've got to choose from just to go to church? You know what I mean? Like, or to talk about Jesus. And it's like, oh, well, little Susie, that's because we have a bunch of people who couldn't agree on certain aspects, whether it be music or dress or preaching styles or days or carpet or anything else. And it's like, so we have this thing called division, but really it's denomination. We just disguise, or it is division, but we disguise it as denomination. That's probably a preaching point.
That is a preaching point.
That's probably a preaching point at some time. Yeah, right. Yeah, your denomination is just secretly disguised, just secretly disguised in division. But either way, but it's like, no, we just have, we have this problem where we can't get together and get on the same page. And it's like, okay, well, why should I go to church then? And it's like, oh, well, that's a tough question, little Susie, because, we want you to get connected in. We want you to know who Jesus is, but we also want you to love, your neighbor, the other church down the road that you never talk to or hang out with, or, so it's like we can, I feel like, we're talking about like voting, we're talking about Memorial Day, we're talking about stuff like that, but it's like, really, and I've said this, and I've started wearing this coat as being kind of like, the church's critiquer, as far as, how can we get better and how can we do things different? I think that's one of the things, like, we have to address at some point in time and be like, yo, look, like, are we on the same page or are we not on the same page? Are we trying to get people to Jesus or are we not trying to get people to Jesus? Or are we fighting the devil or are we fighting each other? Are we fighting, like, what are we doing here? And what's really going on? And, just not even denominationally, but just like in our own churches, like in the church that we have, say like Fruition Church, we're out here looking at the pews right now and they're empty because church is over with. But like it is our job as leaders and as ministers and as whether it's the worship team or whatever, to make sure that we are collectively like unified together, fighting this battle together and making sure that there's not anybody, in the process that we're missing. Like one of the things, man, that I've had to really learn about being a leader is that like sometimes, man, it's like it's about stepping back from everything and going, all right, man, like I'm not even going to interject my 2 cents into this. Like, let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? And then if there is a division there, let me step in and kind of build this bridge a little bit. But like, this is kind of crazy, but like you find that 9 times out of 10, no matter how hard you preach, no matter how much you do, no matter whatever, people are still going to do what they're going to do, yep. And so like at some point in time, it's like, you stop begging, you stop asking, you stop dealing, you stop doing, you stop. And it's just like, it's like sometimes, man, being a good leader is like, all right, man, just figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, man, let me build that bridge and we'll come together collectively. You know what I mean? And so whenever we get into things like that and we think about things like that, I'm thinking to myself, like, at some point in time, and I told people, I'm done with uniting churches. It's time to unite people. It's time to build God's kingdom, not build God's different churches. we've tried that. That didn't work. And so, am I going to be the proponent of going out and like passing out flyers and being like, let's all the churches get together? No, man. Let's build people now. And so I think that's the same way as far as like just in the church house in general. Like we all have to be on the same page. We all have to be wanting the same thing. We all have to be moving towards the same way. And sometimes I'm going to be at the forefront. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes there's going to be other people at the forefront and, leading a certain way, and I'm not talking about the direction of the ministry. I'm talking about maybe just in a department of ministry, it's going to be somebody else leading and going and, and things like that. It's like, that's something where we all have to be on the same page. And one word that's coming to my mind is always communication. Just communicating and talking and building that bridge, man, and just, showing people that, to be an open book, I feel like is a huge thing. And just kind of letting people know, man, that we're all in this thing together. And again, I think that goes back to what you talked about with voting and what we talked about with churches. Is like the reason why we've gotten in the shape we're in today is because it's more of a me mentality than a we mentality, and that's where we get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I think we definitely struggle, and I say this all the time. I mean, we made this podcast. People suck, love them anyway, but people do suck. They are selfish. They are greedy. Again, it's very my way or the highway. It's you believe what I believe, or get out. You do what I want to do, or you get out. It's a very conditional situation. And unfortunately, because that's the way people are. That has bled into the church that God created and set up and wanted to be a certain way, but we have poisoned that with the selfishness of humanity. We've basically come in and decided, if you don't want the same carpet color as me, get out, make your own church. If you don't want to sing the same songs as us, get out, build your own church. If you don't sing the same way we do, get out, go to your own church.
Yeah.
We've talked many times before about our struggles with bringing the churches just in this community together because they don't want to lose people to our church, or we whatever, vice versa. You want to talk about they don't believe in the style of worship we have. They don't think we dress the right way. We don't all these sorts of different things. I know.
I don't
you
dress
definitely don't dress the right way. I don't know what is the right way, right? But and again, it's just all of this division because again we are selfish people by nature. And as Keenan was kind of saying, we have to get better about not just communicating. I think that's an extremely important part because if we don't communicate, we're not going to be able to understand the other people around us.
Right.
We're not going to be able to understand their points of view or why they believe the way they did or they do, and we're not going to be able to understand what they're struggling with right now to help them with it. I think communication is important, but we also have to learn to be, as you were saying, less me-minded and more we-minded. Mm-hmm. Again, we always talk and make jokes about how Christianity is very similar to communism. All of us sharing these things together and taking care of each other's needs and all those sorts of things. But until we as Christians, as an individual in this church building or whatever church building you're going to, until we decide to be a we, we're never going to get anywhere. We can't sit there and be me all the time and expect the church to grow or expect the kingdom of God to grow. Christianity is not a me personal centric, religion. It is a we centric religion. We have to be helping each other, sharing with each other, praying for each other, giving to each other, blessing each other, praying for each other. It's not there are points and times where as, a Christian, you have to make sure your personal relationship with Christ is good before you can help other people discover their personal relationship with Christ. But once you've figured out what that relationship with Christ is within yourself, it's your job to now go out, spread the gospel, spread the word, talk to people, pray for people, and communicate. As Keenan was saying, we've turned Christianity into very self-serving. As he always says, and he also used a different ice cream example, but it's like Neapolitan ice cream. You can choose whatever flavor you want.
I love ice cream.
All right, I do too.
It's
fine.
good.
It doesn't like me, but I do love it.
It's good.
But again, you have that opportunity and chance, but with all of this division, with all of this again, this selfishness within the kingdom of God, we're not going to grow. We're not going to build because selfishness breeds disunity, and disunity is never going to unify the church. And if the church isn't unified, then the world's not going to be unified. We see that all over the place. Again, we have these people, whether it's a dictator, whether it's a president, whether it's a king who decides, hey, I don't like this, so I'm going to force all these other people to go out here and die for me and my cause and what I believe in. And again, that's so self-serving and so selfish. But we see that, all over the world. We see bosses and companies, run a company into the ground because of what they wanted to accomplish. They didn't listen to the people underneath them. They didn't communicate with people underneath them.
Yeah.
And so they push people into the ground and they burn them out and all these sorts of things. Communication is so important, and being the opposite of selfish is important. We have to make sure that we're listening to the people, whether they're underneath us, whether they're beside us, whether they're above us. We have to be able to communicate with each other. We have to be able to have empathy, as we always talk about on here, being able to empathize and see the world from other people's perspectives, and have those uncomfortable conversations from time to time, where we push our, I guess, I don't want to say our boundaries, but like where we push our limits of understanding a little bit further to try and understand where this person came from. They grew up different. They come from different than we do. And I think we say this all the time, we get in trouble about putting our expectations on other people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what causes a lot of disunity. We expect people to serve us, or to be like us, to look like us, to talk like us. But that's just not the case, and it's never going to be the case.
Yeah.
We have to understand that, there are going to be differences, but as you said, we're all supposed to be, even if there are 37 different denominations, the point is that all 37 denominations are all working towards the same goal,
right,
moving in the same direction towards God's same vision. And I think, as you were talking there a second ago, I'm thinking of like a rowboat where you got two, one person rowing one way and the other person rowing the other way, and you're not getting anywhere. You're just going in a circle.
Yeah.
And we talked today, you talked today about, the dangers of being in that, that circle and doing the same thing over and over again, and
that
just
process.
spinning and spinning and spinning,
Yeah,
and doing the same and doing the same and doing the same.
Yeah.
And that's not getting anybody anywhere.
Right.
We need to get on the same accord. Again, communication. Hey, which way are you rowing? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
rowing the other way. I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah.
let's both of us row this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, getting that communication is very, very important. And I think until the church starts having uncomfortable conversations, until the church starts challenging their belief system, until we get politics out of the church, until God forbid this Christian nationalism movement that's happening here in America, until we get politics out of the church, we're never going to move forward.
Oh, yeah.
Until we get Democrat or Republican out of the church, we're never going to move forward. Until we stop saying things like, if you're a Democrat, you can't go to heaven, or if you're a Republican, you can't go to heaven. Until we stop saying stupid crap like that, we're never going to move forward. We're never going to get on track on the same way, in the same path, moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean the analogy about the boat spinning, like it's I would still know people, and I say this, like that was old me. That was like 15-year ago Christian me. Because I would be going one way and another person would be going another way, and we'd just be spinning circles. And then 15-year ago me would look and go, "Which way are you going?" "I'm going left." And I'd be like, "Well, I'm going right. You need to go right with me." And it's like, what if right is not the right way to go? But it's like you said, it's my way or the highway type situation. Where you just, I don't know, man. Like maybe just getting older, I'm getting a little bit more, I guess, maybe mellow. I don't know about it, about stuff like that. It's like it's not always my way or the highway. It's like, I used to be that guy that was like, it was my way or the highway or this, that, or the other. And just having a conversation with a gentleman before we done the podcast today, like one of the greatest compliments that I ever get from people is just the fact of that, like, it's like, hey, man, I can come in this place and feel welcome from the time I'm in here to the time I leave. And some people might be like, well, it's all about preaching the gospel and it's all about this, that, or the other. And listen, I agree with you 1,000%. And I promise you that the will of God, that the will of God and the Spirit of God will take place in here while we're here. That's just part of it. Whether I'm preaching, whether the Spirit moves and I don't preach, whatever the case is, like I have full confidence in the Spirit of God moving in here while we're here. But I will tell you this, you are not going to change anybody's heart and life by not making them feel welcomed. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody walks in the door and you literally judge them from the moment they walk in and you don't talk to them and you don't look at them and you somehow think that you've earned the right and earned the respect of this person, that they're going to listen to what you say, you pray for me. You out your damn mind. All right. I mean, let's just be real. Like if there's one thing that anybody will ever say about me, it's like, this dude just real. He just keep it real with you. But you're out your mind. I mean, you're out of your mind to think that. Like, whenever somebody comes in and whenever somebody sits down and I'm like up here looking in a corner because I'm like thinking to myself about people just walking in the door and sitting down. And it's like you want people to feel like, you know what, like I'm glad that they're there today. I'm glad to see your face today. I'm glad, like you've missed 7 Sundays in a row. I tell you what, thank God you showed up 8. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe something is said. Maybe something is done. Maybe something is going to change your life today. Maybe something will change the outcome of future generations in your family. Like that's the mindset that I have these days. Like
it's the mindset we all need to have.
You're right, like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. Like if you would have asked me, I would have been like, nah, man, I ain't got no time for you. And it's like, no, man. At the end of the day, we've almost like, again, church biggest critiquer right here. Like we've almost become the church. It's like we want the harvest, but without planting the seeds. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so we look at people and it's like, oh, there's a harvest, there's a harvest, there's a harvest. And it's like, then you look at somebody up here that's only here like once every 6 weeks and you're like, man, that ain't a harvest, And it's like, whoa. So are you not sowing seeds over there? What are you doing? You know what I mean? Because, the Bible is very specific and plain about saying, you know what, some are going to plant and some are going to water, but it's always going to be God who brings the increase. So we're not responsible for the increase. We're not responsible for the harvest. We enjoy the harvest, right? Mm-hmm. But the Bible says the harvest is plentiful, but it's the workers that are few. And I truly think it's the workers that are few because we expect people to already come in saved, sanctified, healed, delivered, set free, and all we got to do is just coach them up a little bit, and man, we're good. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why, and this is just me, so whatever, but I think that's the reason why, I'll be honest, man, we got a lot of people, we got a lot of pastors quitting the ministry these days. And I know the numbers, 90% feel lonely and I don't know, there's burnout and stress and whatever. And like, I will attest to that. Is this job lonely? You best believe it's lonely. Is there a lot of burnout? You best believe there is. Is there stress? Out the wazoo. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual? Absolutely. For every one person you have that says good job, you've got 10 that says you suck. You're always going to battle that no matter what. But God, in His Word, I feel like really prepared us for this before we even stepped into this. Like I had no idea whenever I stepped into ministry and got that calling on my life. I had no idea how heavy it was going to be. But I also figured out along the way that it's like, His Word says that this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. Like this is going to be some rough stuff, and you best be prepared. And and so it's like we're not going to have this, and maybe that's the reason why I'm so passionate about Fruition Church is because we planted this through God's glory and through His direction, and so it's like none of this was handed to us. None of this is given, and so it's like everything we had to work for. Everything we have, man, like nobody's just walking in signing out $5 million checks saying go build a building or go buy
unless you want to. If you're listening or watching and you want to do that,
you're that person.
You're that person.
You're that person right now. Nobody's buying new podcast equipment. We're talking about lights and lighting in here and things like that. And it's like nobody's doing that, man. It's literally by the grace of God. And but that's where the work comes in at. And so people want the freedom. Again, I think I'm gonna try to tie all this in together. But people want the freedom of America, but yet there's sacrifices to be made. Mm-hmm. People want the freedom of church, but there's sacrifices to be made. People want we talk about freedom, but there's sacrifices to make to get to that point. And what I'm trying to say is that, for people that are walking into church buildings, for people that are listening to podcasts or whatever the case is, if you start out your podcast or you start out your church service or you start out your business or whatever, and you don't make people feel welcomed and invited as soon as they walk in the door or they turn on the play button or whatever the case is, they ain't going to listen to what you got to say. They don't care if everything in your store is free. They don't care. If you don't make them feel welcome when they walk in the door, they ain't going to get nothing. They don't care. It's the same way with church, man. If people are walking through the door and you don't ask, hey, what's your name? Or hey, how you doing today? Glad you're here. Hey, donuts over here in the corner, coffee. You know what I'm saying? Hey, kids classes, bam, bam. Outreaches. We're selling T-shirts. Whatever. Like, if you don't connect and make them feel welcomed, I don't care how dynamic your preaching is. Could care less how good your worship team is. Could care less how many smiling faces you got in the pews. If people aren't connected and feeling connected, man, they don't care what you got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, I think, again, we're just bringing it all back into what we've been saying over and over again this episode, is that we are a very selfish, greedy, lazy world. That's just the people. They suck. People in general suck. If you haven't heard that by now, there it is again. But again, the people suck. I mean, we suck sometimes. We're lazy sometimes. Mm-hmm. We don't put in all the effort we could sometimes. We don't do what we should be able to or should do sometimes. And, unfortunately, every time we say this all the time, but whenever people get involved, it sucks. Something gets messed up, something gets wonky, something gets, all that kind of stuff. But and I think that's just and you'll have your. I'm probably going to say something that's going to really make the boomers happy, but we have a very, very lazy society these days. They want everything handed to them on a silver platter, and that has definitely bled and poisoned into, or however you want to say that, into the church. We have a lot of people who, and we did I think an episode about it. Like consumer Christians or something like that. We even called them like mosquito or parasite Christians. Like they come in here, and they just expect people to give to them, and they never put anything back into it. They never pour back into it. They never give back into it. They just consume and consume and consume and consume. And we have a lot of people like that. I do believe that, until we get that right, until we get that right in the church, we're not going to get that right in the world. Until we put our head to the ground and just start working and keep plowing and keep moving and keep doing and keep trusting God, we're not going to see that happen in the world. We're going to see more and more people expect things handed to them. We're going to see more and more lazy people. We're going to see less and less people working. We're going to see less and less people. We're going to become more reliant upon the government, or we're going to become more reliant upon other people because we're not doing what we need to do. Again, faith without works is dead. The Bible says time and time again, it never says to sit back and sit back and do nothing and God will bless you. That's not how it works.
Right.
It doesn't say that anywhere. I don't know what version of the Bible you're reading to believe that, but and so again,
I need that version.
I know,
if that's
right?
the
Me
case.
too. Yeah, where's that you version? But again, it's our job. We have to put in work. We have to put in that effort. We have to use wisdom. Like God has a plan for us. God has a purpose for us. But again, we have to make the right choices and the right decisions to get from here to there.
Yeah.
We're not going to see growth in the church until the people in the church start giving and serving and all that sort of stuff. And we're not going to see change in the world until the people in the church start doing any of these sorts of things. We always expect, the people in the world to change and to come into that. It's just not how it works. Again, it's just like what Keenan was saying. There are so many churches out there, like I said, if you're Democrat, you might as well just not come in. Or, if you're gay, you might as well not come in. Or if you killed somebody, you might as well not come in. If you're an alcoholic or an addict, you might as well not come in. We have treated people so poorly. And it's not, it's not the world that's treated these people poorly.
Right.
It's the church that's treated these people poorly. Again, it's not our, like as Keenan said, it's our job to plant the seed and water the seed. It's not our job. God will see the harvest. So, if we bring in addicts, if we bring in, all these other different people that, we shun away most of the time as a church or as Christians, if we bring them in and we start saying, hey, God loves you, I just want to talk, I just want to invite you to church. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you have to be, what you have to wear, what you have to look like, what you have to do. I just want you to come in so we can love on you and you can get the word of God in the process.
Absolutely.
And we have to allow that word of God. We have to allow the worship. We have to allow the atmosphere. We have to allow the Spirit to do a work in their lives. We have to allow, God to do the conviction and to bring the harvest. We've done our work. We've planted the seed. We've watered the seed. We've loved on them. We've supported them, and we've brought them in here. And we've done our work. We've done our job.
Yeah.
But again, we're so bad about doing our job in all aspects of the world these days. We're so bad about doing any job, and so it's just again we have to be better about just in being and inviting a welcoming presence and allowing God to do the hard work, allowing God to do the convicting and the changing and all those sorts of things. It's our job to be inviting and to be welcoming, and not to say that we don't have to speak the truth, but as the Bible says, we have to speak the truth in love. We have to make sure that these people understand that, regardless of what you believe, regardless of what you look like, regardless of who you are as a person, I still love you. God still loves you. Jesus still loves you.
Right.
And he loves you enough that he died for you. And he died for you so that you had a chance to experience a better life than you're experiencing right now. And it's our job to say that and to allow God to do the work from there.
Right.
We can continue to encourage, continue to motivate, continue to pour into. But again, it's God that brings that harvest. It's not our job to sit here and say who can and can't come into our church building. It's not our job to say who can and can't come into the kingdom of God. But we get that backwards so many times. And so again, we can't allow selfishness. We can't allow laziness. We can't allow greed to pour, to make its way into the church. It's already here.
Right.
But now it's our job to get it out, to kick it out, to kick that demon out of the church, whatever building you're in, to kick that out and to love on people, to help people, to welcome people, to pray for people, to love, and all those sorts of things. And again, as we've said, it requires sacrifice on our part. It requires us to sacrifice our wants, needs, and desires to help the other people out there, to help people maybe we will never meet. Just as the soldiers we've talked about on Memorial Day who gave their life for people they'll never meet, to hope and pray that their sacrifice means that the people back home they've never met will have a better life, which is exactly what Jesus did. He died on a cross so that we could have a better life, so we'd have grace, mercy, and forgiveness whenever we needed it. And so it's our job as Christians. We need to think about that, to think that we're making sacrifices. We're coming in here. We're doing the podcast. We're praying for people. We're sacrificing our time, effort, money, energy, all these sorts of things to make sure that there are people out there in this building that we see that they can experience better things, and that the people they know that we've never met, that they can experience better things as well, because they've taken what we've given them and they're giving it to other people, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, at the end of the day, man, this episode is literally all about, I think, I don't know, man, maybe the title needs to be something about, sacrificing for the people you'll never meet, or something like that, that vibe, that direction, because that's what it's truly all about. We're not doing this just for us. We're not doing this just for LaRue County or Kentucky or the United States. Like we're going into all of the nations and trying to make disciples through Jesus, and so that's what it's all about. So we hope that you take something away from this episode that will literally maybe bless your perspective, maybe, have you change it up the way that you look at it. And as always, man, tell somebody about this episode, tell somebody about, the podcast, and, hopefully we just continue to grow in different countries, different states, and all of that good stuff, man, and just continue to reach more people. So until we see you again, we love you and be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love 'Em Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.